My brother-in-law, Sammy, lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought his twin daughters, Olivia and Sloane 18, with him a couple of months ago. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoey, 16, and she and her cousins aren't close, but get along fine. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoey's privacy, none. They used to walk into her room and take everything they get their hands on. Makeup, phone accessories, clothes, school laptop etc. Zoey complained a lot, and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoey's privacy and stop taking things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're girls and this is typical teenage girls behavior. I completely disagreed. The last straw was when Zoey bought a $60 MAC makeup kit that looks like a paint set that she saved up for over a month, and one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup, but that's what Zoey said when she found the kit on her bed and was crying. I told my wife and she said she'd ask Sloane to apologize, but I got Zoey a lock after I found she was moving valuable belongings out the house because of this incident. Sammy and his daughter saw the lock and weren't happy. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it and I straight up told him. He said, "My daughters aren't thieves, it's normal that girls of the same age borrow each other's stuff." He said Zoey could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart and shouldn't even be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place, and suggested my wife take care of this defect in Zoey's personality, trying to appear older than she is. He accused me of being overprotective and babying Zoey with this level of enablement. I told him this is between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoey's door for her cousins to see and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it, but I said this lock does not get removed till her brother and his daughters are out of our house. She got mad I was implying we kicked them out and said her family'll hate me for this. So I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move in, which is something her own family refused to do, so she should start with shaming and blaming them for not taking their own son and nieces and granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at home. Everyone's been giving me and Zoey the silent treatment, and my wife is very much upset over this. Not the idiot. Your daughter doesn't feel like she has any privacy or respect in her own home, and you gave her a lock to give her back her privacy. You tried talking to your wife, your brother-in-law and your nieces, and that got you nowhere. If your daughter has to accept 3 additional adults living in her home, they need to accept her very reasonable boundaries of not taking and ruining her things. Good for you showing your daughter you respect and support her. Not the idiot. Good on you for standing up for your daughter. Your wife, brother-in-law, and his daughters are idiots. Your wife's argument that this is preventing them from spending time with her is completely invalid. They go into her room when she isn't there and take her stuff. Besides, they can spend time together in the living room or wherever else. Your brother-in-law is ignorant. MAC versus Walmart has no comparison. Not the idiot. The cousins aren't borrowing. They are stealing. Borrowing is when you ask permission for something and then return it in the same condition in which it was given. Saying that your daughter should not be spending so much money on makeup is just a distraction or deflection from the fact that they took her property and ruined it. As far as the lock, it is not keeping cousins from spending time together because clearly they are entering the room when your daughter isn't even there. Around 2 months ago, I, 52, finally bit the bullet and spent some of my lab budget to bring on board an administrative assistant. It's been wonderful. As I got older, I received more administrative responsibilities, and I never realized how much of my day was spent scheduling, answering emails, and coordinating events. My new hire has done a fantastic job getting those tasks off my plate. She is a 22-year-old recent college graduate, which I am only mentioning because it becomes relevant. About 2 weeks ago, we had a bi-monthly lab lunch. We took a picture, captioned it welcoming our new administrative staff member to the team, and posted it to our lab Instagram. Apparently, this led to all my wife's friends, including my sister-in-law, seeing the picture. They proceeded to give my wife unsolicited advice about how this was a sign I'm considering cheating on her, which I have never done and will never do. They argued that she should ask me to fire my new hire to test my integrity. I refused because that's freaking ridiculous and likely illegal. Now, my wife's friends are convinced I'm some predatory scumbag, and my wife is angry that I quote don't respect her enough to stop people from thinking I'm throwing her away. This might be where I'm an idiot. I responded that I think the real problem is that she's friends with a bunch of crazy divorcees, which I initially regretted saying because my sister-in-law's marriage had fallen apart last year. However, as my sympathy has waned, I'm starting to double down on as an accurate characterization of those morons. I'm making this post because I think this whole situation is absolutely absurd and, for the first time in our marriage, I can't see how her side is reasonable in any way. I literally get to spend more time with my wife now that I don't spend an hour answering emails before bed every night. I don't see how this is a me problem or even an us problem at this point. I don't think I have done anything even slightly inappropriate, and this is entirely her problem. Maybe I'm completely off base, but I need a third-part perspective. Not the idiot. You can't fire someone and potentially screw up their career because your wife is insecure and jealous. Maybe it's not illegal where you are, but it should be. It is incredibly offensive to your employee that because your wife thinks you might have an affair she loses her job, and a horrible insult to her professionalism. I presume you hired the best person for the job, but even if you didn't, that's a problem for the company you work for and is still nothing to do with your wife. Not the idiot. Honestly, if you had jumped to firing the new hire, your wife's friends would have said that was proof you were having an affair with her, otherwise you wouldn't have felt guilty enough to fire someone for no reason. Your wife is likely either insecure about something herself, or she's just the type of personality that is easily swayed by peer pressure. In either case, I'd suggest a couples counselor for at least a few sessions, and possibly have her transition into private therapy to help her grow a backbone against her friends. Not the idiot. My mom divorced my dad over a similar issue when they were a similar age to you. He wasn't the boss of the woman in question though, just a coworker, and 24 years old. Ultimately, my mom convinced herself that my dad was cheating, and she blew up their marriage of 26 years because my dad refused to leave the job until he had another job lined up. There was never any evidence of anything inappropriate. The girl had a boyfriend her own age the whole time as well. I hope your wife comes to her senses. Honestly, I, 26, didn't know this woman that well when we first met through a dating site. She was 35 and according to her profile was single, never told me she was married. We went out on a few dates for 4 months until she told me she wasn't interested anymore. I later found out it was because her husband was getting suspicious and she needed to cut her losses. But a few months after, she contacted me again and told me she was pregnant. It hadn't been that long since we slept together and she confessed everything. Her husband still didn't know yet because she wanted to find out who the father was first. We did the prenatal paternity test and confirmed her baby is also mine. She had to tell him after that, and it was a crap show. He wanted to speak to me and called me like crazy. She got him to leave me alone after telling him I never knew about her being married. We were both lied to by her. They're apparently trying to work things out, but here's the thing. Her husband wants me completely out of the picture and is willing to adopt my baby if I terminate my parental rights. He doesn't want me in their lives at all and this is his only condition, or he's divorcing her and taking their 2 kids. Don't know if he can actually do that, but she's begging me to do this or it'll completely break their family. Neither of them are considering that this is my child too and I want to be in my child's life. I said I would not, and it's causing all these problems. She's called several times telling me how badly this is hurting her family, and her kids are hurt and confused because her husband's temporarily moved out until this condition is met. She feels guilty for doing this to them, but says she wants to fix her mistakes and make their marriage work if I could just do this. Plus, to her, it's a sweet deal for me since I won't ever have to raise this baby or be responsible financially. I don't see it that way. I want to be a dad to my son. But it feels like what I want is hurting everyone else, like her kids. My close friends who know all this get I want to do right by my kid, but feel I should walk away from this messy situation, as it'll always be a part of my life if I choose to be involved, and it's possible if her husband is willing to adopt my son after birth, he'll have a good life. Nobody else in my life thinks me being in my son's life is a good idea, and I don't know if it really is such a bad thing. She's due in 2 mo's, and I don't know what to do. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I read a similar post a couple weeks ago about how a couple adopted the husband's affair baby and the wife ended up divorcing him within a year of adopting because she couldn't handle it. There's still a huge chance her husband will walk away or treat the child unfairly after you sign away your rights. If you don't want to terminate your rights, then don't. Protect the child. Not the idiot, she sounds like a professional bully. Cheats on her husband, lies, puts her family through hell, finds out she is pregnant and decides to keep it, then demands you to sign away your rights. This woman has had so much karma creeping up on her, it's not even funny. You want to be a part of your child's life, good on you. Follow your heart and screw what anyone has to say about it. If you sign away your rights feeling the way you do right now, not wanting to do that, you'll regret it until the day you die. Not the idiot. Let's say you did choose to sign away your rights, and your biological son or daughter grew up in their household. They would one day know the truth and wonder why you did it, and even though you have the right to say no, they could resent you for it or think badly why you chose to. But they could also be understanding why you did if they were explained fully. You are in your full legal right to be a father to your baby if you can and want to. I, 21, am roommates with another guy from college, 21, for about 2 years. We are both really chill and never had any problems. We have both stayed away from medicine, but we do drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes. We have hosted some wild parties in this house. We don't host parties since Aunt Rona came to town, but we both continue to smoke cigarettes in the house. Neither of us had a problem smoking anything indoors, and neither did our landlord, it's a crazy college town. He wouldn't have gotten any tenants if he said they can't smoke inside the house. The problem came in the form of his pregnant friend about a month ago. He said that she got evicted and that she was jobless and needs a place to stay for a few days urgently. I agreed. Obviously, we both stopped smoking inside the house. It was just for a few days, so I did my best to make her feel comfortable. But the more accommodations we made for her, the more she asked for. She didn't like when we played music or TV, as she was a light sleeper and gets headache easily. The smell of meat makes her nauseous, so we can't cook or eat meat inside the house. Me and my friend just went to the roof when we felt like having a smoke. Days became weeks, and I asked him when she was leaving. At this point, I am getting annoyed at not being able to do what I want in my own place. He told me how he is telling her nicely to leave without saying get out, but she keeps either begging for some more time or starts crying, and he backs out. Weeks became a month and I have had enough. Since yesterday, I have started smoking inside the house. I mean, it's not like I deliberately light up when she is in the room. Ashtray is by the window, so I sit there and smoke when I want. If she is in the room, I just give her a heads up and then start smoking. I have also started watching Netflix on the TV when we don't have classes and started cooking meat in the house again. Yesterday night, she yelled at me about how an inconsiderate idiot I was, and I reminded her that it's my place, and unless she has paid rent that I didn't know about, she doesn't have a say in what I can or what I cannot do. My roommate is really nice and he tried his best to help a friend out, he isn't the father. But even his patience is wearing thin, and he supported me. We aren't going to throw a homeless and jobless pregnant woman into the street, but I am also done making adjustments to my way of living for someone who doesn't even pay rent. She can find a way to be okay with how me and my roommate live, or she can find another place to stay. So, am I that idiot? Not the idiot. I do hate smoking indoors, but since in your place it's allowed, no problem. Also, you waited, respected. Other demands were ridiculous, smoking was reasonable to do outside. She is not a resident. You expected her to stay only a short time, and now she seems to think she is living there fully. I think it's time to really say it to her face to get out. Aloud. She is a guest, and it's about time she finally actually goes to live somewhere else. Poor baby though. Everyone's the idiot here. She's acting all entitled by making ridiculous demands, and you and your friend are not respecting her and her unborn baby's health by smoking inside. Also, by smoking inside, it shows you have a cavalier attitude to the upkeep of your own living quarters. Nicotine stains everything over time and the smell of ash becomes embedded everywhere. It's very difficult to clean up that kind of a mess. Even if neither of you smoked at all, you've all created a ticking time bomb of a situation by allowing the pregnant friend to stay for longer. Not the idiot. As a pregnant woman who had awful morning sickness and couldn't stand the smell of anything cooking for the first trimester, 100% not the idiot. She doesn't parent and is being a major mooch. She needs to move out, she can't expect to stay with you and your roommate indefinitely. I'm not a fan of cigarettes honestly, and the second-hand smoke could have an impact on the baby, but it's your home. You are not responsible for her or her child, she needs to stop being so entitled and figure out a plan. Mindy is my fraternal twin, and I swear that her life has always been easy. I don't resent her for that, but she has expected things to almost always go her way. Mindy is pregnant with baby 3. She has 2 sons, Ryan and Dave, who were named after her husband's grandfather and father. She's having a girl and is ecstatic. They planned on keeping their name a secret until the birth. After an awful year, my fiancée Amy surprised me with a cat. She had planned on surprising me over the holidays, but a lot of shelters were tapped out due to pandemic adoptions. The shelter had named her Ellie and I teared up because that was my nan's nickname. She died 2 years ago, and my life still feels empty without her. Ellie's sweet demeanor and loving spirit made me feel as if she were a gift sent by Nan herself. We decided to keep the name as it was as a tribute to her, which Amy thought was sweet, and that Ellie was perfect. I don't use social media much, but I decided to post a picture of Ellie snuggled up between Amy and I as a way to introduce our fur baby to the family. I wrote a small blurb about how fitting it is that she shares a name with Nan due to her sweetness, posted it and forgot about it after an hour or so. Mindy called me yesterday and started screaming at me for being a coward and ignoring her. Turns out she planned on naming her daughter Eileen after our Nan and having everyone call her Ellie. Apparently, she unleashed her fury on my private post and berated me for not responding later in the night. I was in no freaking mood and hung up on her instead of stooping to her level. She wouldn't stop calling me, so I texted her to chill the hell out, and until then I blocked her and her husband because he started on me after blocking her. When Amy came home, she showed me all of the awful things that Mindy had texted her. I did my best to calm her down, and Amy went to take a hot bath. I called my mom. Sadly, I knew that she wouldn't listen to me. She told me that she knows I was close to Nan, but the name is better suited for a baby. I told her that's ridiculous. She said Mindy is hormonal from the pregnancy and to be a good sister. I snapped and asked her where Mindy's compassion was when I learned that I could never carry my own child. I called her up crying that day and she brushed me off, saying I was being overly dramatic. I asked her if she knew what a hysterectomy was. She went quiet. We didn't speak again until after I had recovered from the surgery and tried to act like nothing happened. I still resent her for this. My mom told me to grow up, that this name was important to Mindy. I swung low and asked her where Mindy was when Nan died. In Vegas with her friends, even though she was told Nan wouldn't survive the weekend. Mindy wanted the name for the glory. I loved Nan and won't rename my fur baby. Mom called me a selfish little idiot, hung up and blocked me. I feel so crazy. Amy and my dad seem to be the only people on my side. Am I the idiot? Holy moly, way not the idiot. Your mother and sister sound awful. I am so sorry that you have to deal with that. When you decide to keep baby names a secret, you run the risk of someone else using the same name. On top of that, the way that they went about it is just unacceptable. The fact that your sister didn't call you to talk about it, but instead berated you through social media and then went after your fiancé, is a sign that she is a terrible person. Everyone's the idiot here, mate. I know they're being crappy, and I agree with other commenters on those issues, but I want to say that holding on to multiple years worth of pent-up rage against your sister like that is not healthy. If you are upset about her past events or actions, you need to either open that conversation or not. Using those things in unrelated arguments to prove that she's a bad person and therefore you, the good person, should get your way is unpleasant and a bad argument. If you really care about those things, then don't cheapen them by using them as ammunition in dumb arguments.